Hello everyone and welcome to another Biz Chats. On Biz Chats, we talk with expert guests as we get advice and best practices and tips. Today we're going to be talking about effective change management with Eleonora. She's a founder of Business Evolution. She's a business and a team development trainer with a ton of experience in corporate world and qualifications in the field of education and training. She helps business owners and professionals get rid of self-doubt and increase energy, focus, and motivation. So I'm down for this conversation. I'm very excited. I'm going to invite her in on this chat right now.
Hello.
Hi, Eleonora.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm excited to get this conversation and chat started.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. All refreshed from the holiday season?
Yes. I have to say I was back home in Italy for a couple of weeks. It was a little bit less cold than here, but you know.
Just a little bit, right?
Just a little bit. It was a little bit of a shock coming back, but it's nice. I love winter. I don't mind. So it's nice. Did you have a good holiday too?
I did. I was able to recharge, spend some time with my family, and now we're back to it.
Back to it, right? It's always the best, like recharging the batteries and coming back.
Exactly. So I did let the audience know a little bit about you and Business Evolution and our topic today, which I'm very excited about because I'm a big believer in the power of embracing change. So I think this conversation is very important, but I do respect your time. So I want to get right into it and ask you I usually ask about 10 questions. So the first question out the gate is, what do you mean by change in the world of business?
Yeah, this is, just like you said, change is everywhere. It really is, especially in business. And sometimes people don't realize that it's everywhere and you need to embrace it in order to move forward. Like in business, as you know perfectly well with your company, buying or selling is already a change, a big change. When you buy or sell a company, you don't just buy or sell a company, you change your life, your schedule, maybe you relocate, maybe, your personal life changes too. So if you don't have those tools to embrace change, it's very difficult to make those steps like buying and selling. Downsizing is a big change, it's also a change. Firing people, firing is change. And sometimes that's why, firing doesn't happen or hiring doesn't happen because people are afraid of changing. They just want to be where they are, stay where they are, and they don't really embrace change. So it's basically everywhere. And every time you want to move forward, even if you tell yourself, I just want to move forward, but I want everything to stay the way it is, it's just not possible. Change is basically virtually everywhere.
Got it. Love it.
Yeah.
All right. Next question here. How does a business owner know it's time for change?
Well, I'm not interested in the obvious situations. Of course, when things are going not very well, that's a very obvious change. You think, okay, I'm not making enough money. I'm not making, don't have enough clients. It's very easy.
I'm not happy.
I'm not happy. Exactly. This is pretty obvious. But sometimes there are situations where change is needed, but they're less obvious. Sometimes one of my clients, for instance, she's a bookkeeper and she's very successful. But she told me, I'm not fulfilled. I'm not happy. I come to work every day. I hate my job. I don't like it. I have a lot of clients. I even have too many. That's what she told me. It was really amazing what she said. And she said, I want to do something different. So there is a difference between success and fulfillment. And if you don't have fulfillment, maybe you could say my company's thriving and it's going well, but you might need change.
And I don't want to interrupt you, but I just want to add into that because I believe in that as well. My little sister, she's an HR professional. I actually hosted her maybe a couple biz chats ago, and she's a big believer in career fulfillment and how important that is and the difference, fulfillment is, versus success. There's even another mentor I follow, probably everybody watching this follows him, Gary Vaynerchuk. And, he is notoriously known for also sharing his input on how, he has a lot of friends that are millionaires and they're just not happy, right? So fulfillment and success, they don't equal each other.
They're key, and especially when you have somebody working for you who's not happy, that's time for a change too. You see that person, but they come to work, they hold a grudge. That's, a sign for a change too. So sometimes a situation looks positive on the outside, but actually there is need for a change.
Yeah.
Another sign is when everything is still. You're not moving forward, like with your business, you're not moving forward. You're not really going backwards, but you're not going anywhere. You're kind of in a loop. That's a good sign too, that maybe you need to shake things up a little bit.
Got it. No, love that. Next question here. And I can't wait to hear the answer for this, because
Yes.
I think a lot of people have this challenge. Why is change such a challenge?
Nunzio, if I think about my past, like my workshops, change was definitely the one that I was focusing on the most, because change is a scary word. Nobody likes it. Nobody likes it. Especially, and this becomes a surprise, if even if it's positive change, people just say, you know what, I don't want to go anywhere else, than where I am now. The first reason is that it's very simple. Change means the unknown. It's the future.
Yes.
It's what you know. And we love our comfort zone. That's what we like. People have a lot of habits. You go to, you kind of have those habits that you love. You go on holiday to the same place. You spend time with the same people. So that is really something that change has, bears in itself. It's the unknown, the fear of that, not knowing where is it going to go. So we want, sometimes what is called the path of least resistance. We don't want to go through the challenges. We say, you know what, I like where I am. I like it where I am. I don't want to change. So basically, it's about getting rid of the comfort zone, which is sometimes we're spoiled in it and we like it and we feel cuddled. But it's basically, yes, fear.
You know what, I love that, because that's my whole opinion on why it's such a challenge for people. Many people are living the same life and avoiding change or potential failure, and I think, like you said, it's in order to stay in control and in order to stay comfortable, but at the end of the day, doing that is not accomplishing anything. You're not developing as a human being or as a business if you're doing the same crap day in and day out.
You're
right?
not.
Yeah. So no.
You're right. You're perfectly right. It can become an obsession, really. Sometimes people are obsessed by not changing.
Yeah.
And that famous phrase, better the devil you know. Sometimes we'll go, you know what? I don't like this situation, but at least I know every corner of it. I don't need to adjust to anything.
Yeah.
Change brings about that kind of adjustment skill,
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you know of this term. I was introduced to this term when I was in business school, and in the business and startup world, and not even startup world, because startups, in my opinion, do a way better job at embracing change because they have to, in a way. But more at a corporate level, it was called the comfy chair syndrome. Right?
Chair. Oh, I like this.
The comfy chair syndrome. So
and syndrome too. I love that word. Because
yeah. That's what they kind of coined it, and it's true. You have a lot of these head executives in corporations that are just sitting down. They're liking the results, they're liking the revenue, and they don't have a need to change. And I feel that is what caused Blockbuster to disappear. I feel this is what has caused many big cab companies in the taxi industry to disappear, because if they avoided that comfy chair syndrome, they would embrace change and say, hey, listen, what's going on in the world of technology? Exactly. Why didn't Blockbuster invent Netflix? Why didn't cab company X invent Uber? It's because they didn't want to change. They were comfortable, right?
Exactly.
So,
and also what you said before, like they didn't want to make the effort of adjusting, which requires a lot of effort, saying, you know what, I'm not the best. Maybe somebody had a better idea than mine. So, and sometimes we love our past too much. That has a lot to do with it. Sometimes people go, you know what, I've done a lot of this and a lot of that. Why should I change? Well, the future comes and you can't rest on your laurels and say, because I've accomplished so much in my life, I don't want to change anymore. And that's exactly what you said about Blockbusters and even the taxi industry. They're going to have to, get used to that. They can't just
Yeah.
stop time and prevent things from happening and change from happening.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos says it the best. We will never be going backwards, people. So always, forward thinking, right? Forward thinking and push the envelope, forward in the world, right?
Yes.
Okay, so next question here. Where does the fear of change come from? That's interesting.
Yes. So one of the main reasons, and you mentioned that already, is that we want to be in control all the time. So we're afraid of losing control, of not being in control of what's happening, and that's delusional, because change is everywhere, and life is something that is in motion, and it's not a straight line. It's in motion, and you have to sort of ride the wave. So that fear comes from, oh my God, if unexpected factors come into play, I won't be able to deal with them. But guess what? They will be there with you, whether you like it or not. Like, change is going to come. So that fear of, first of all, not being able to be in control anymore, and also not being able to cope with those new factors. Maybe a lack of confidence sometimes, because I see with my clients, they have a vision sometimes, they have ideas, and they go, but how can I do it? How will I be able to cope? And you need a little bit of motivation and believing in yourself, which is not always easy, especially maybe for older people. They fear change a little bit more, because they might
it's a mental game.
Yes, and they think, I'm old now, I'm not that good. They don't know that even if you're not that good at technology, but if you have good ideas, you're still going to thrive. But maybe they feel they were a little bit left behind. And so if you don't have that confidence, of course, you stay home, you stay on your couch, and you say,
Yeah.
do anything.
And you're so right, because, my father is probably one of the most, one of the smartest men I've ever met. He's so intelligent, so passionate, so driven. But one of his cons, and I'll be very transparent with this, is he'll tend to say about certain things that, my time is past, sort of thing.
I get what you say.
Right. And I think it's because, he's older, he's comfortable, and maybe doing things that he is not the best at, it scares him. And I don't think he's the only person like that. I think many people are like that, right?
My dad is sometimes like that too. I'm sharing this with you as well. Like, he's a brilliant business owner, and he's like, you know what? This is not for me. And I'm like, but Daddy, it's just a simple thing. So maybe, like you said, it's a mindset.
Yeah.
Comes with age as well, and it's a shame sometimes, because I think older people and older businessmen or women have a lot to give. Yes,
they have a ton of experience. They're just a library of information, right? So I agree with you. But one thing on a positive note is, like, even for me, I love this question, but I don't fear change, and I think sports, and I thank my parents. So the reason why I thank sports is because it made change natural to me. Every year I would, especially as a minor league player, I would, have new team members. I would have to create and nurture new relationships. So I got used to, change of relationships. Yeah, exactly, right? Or whether hockey brought me to Italy or Germany or, to the US, I had to get used to the change of environment. So I began to, embrace change and understand the power of change and how amazing change is. Even as a kid, with my family, we probably moved, probably close to 11 times.
Oh, you did?
Right?
Wow.
Oh, yeah. We moved quite a bit. Yeah, we moved quite a bit. But once again, I'm thankful for that, because it got me in this mindset to understand that change is not that scary. It's not that scary. It's actually the opposite. It's there's a lot of positive behind it, and there's a lot of power behind it. So
there is especially power, and you have very good training, but you're not, you see a lot of people don't want that. So you're kind of an exception to the rule.
Exactly. Well, thank you. I'm glad to be that, that outlier.
Yes.
Okay. So next question here is, where do we start if we know we have to change?
Yes. On a practical level, you need to have what I call the 2 A's. Like the first thing is awareness and then assessment. So maybe with the help of somebody, you need to sit down and, first of all, you trust your gut feeling, and you think, you feel like you have to change, like the examples that we mentioned before. Something is not going right and you feel like you're stagnating, you don't like it anymore, you don't like your business anymore, or your professional situation. The first thing you need to have is awareness of where you want to go. And that's why sometimes it could be a family member, it could be a coach, it could be a trainer, to sit down with somebody and say, well, I don't like where I am. So the awareness part is fundamental, because a lot of clients, like first few sessions, they say, I want to change, but they don't really know what's going on. So you need to, sometimes it helps to write it down. What is it that you want to change? Why are you not happy? And you'd be surprised when you write things down, even on your own, how many things that paper tells you. It says, well, this is where I want to go. Really, sometimes you're surprised. And the second A is the assessment. So you see where you want to go. This is the change that I would like to have for my business. And you assess that, and you see, you evaluate, how can I implement that and see how it can become a reality. So you need to start somewhere to make a change. You can't just say, I want to change, and that's it. You need to start with a practical thing, sit down and really be honest with yourself.
Got it. All right. Well, so that's midway. Once again, I want to remind everyone that today's session is sponsored by Business Evolution. So please, after we're done here, go check out their website, businessevolution.ca, and see what they have to offer. Right? During this chat, you can tell that she has a ton of content and a ton of insight that can definitely help you. And now with the next question, what tools do we need in order to develop and manage change?
This is nice. This is interesting, because one of the main tools that you can use is, and that I use for myself, for my life as well, because I came from somewhere and then changed, and the first tool,
which is a fascinating story, right? Because that alone is scary, coming from Italy and plopping yourself here in Canada and starting pretty much from ground up, right?
From zero, and I'm not 25 anymore, so it's one of those things that I embraced. And lateral thinking is one of the things that helped me a lot. I don't know if you're familiar with the concept.
No.
Is so helpful. It helps you see a situation from a totally different point of view. And it kind of subverts your values and what everybody else thinks. For example, you go to, you have an interview and you don't get that job. And the temptation is for people who fear change, or they go, what, I was not lucky. Oh my God, that's bad. Lateral thinking makes you say, well, what if this is the best thing that ever happened to me? What if I was not supposed to get that job and I was supposed to do something else? So it's a training also to embrace change, and saying, well, not everything has to be as you planned it, because you can't plan what's coming your way. Or, something that happens to your business. You don't get that client, you don't get that job, and you start thinking, instead of whining, saying, well, what if I'm supposed to look somewhere else? And this client maybe would have brought a lot of trouble.
Got it.
That's one tool I think that is very helpful. Sense of humor, I think, always helps. It might sound very, simple, but it helps to embrace change. Things happen and you go, just try to keep it light. So many people take, themselves so seriously. So if you don't take yourself too seriously, your past, what you've done, it's much easier to embrace change. One other tool is what I said before, thinking that life is not a straight line. It's not. People say, I'm going to do this and that and that. And they have this very perfect line. All of a sudden something happens, there's a bend, and they freak out. They just panic. So if you bear in mind that it's always about dealing with the unexpected, you will be more ready to embrace change, because you will know that it's part of the game.
It's part of the journey, yeah.
Exactly. Another thing that helps a lot, and I think sometimes the words that we use, the expressions that we use are very important, is to substitute the word problem with challenge. It might sound very simple, but the moment you tell yourself, you know what, if you tell yourself, oh my God, I have a problem today, this is my problem, it really weighs you down. If you say, this is my challenge today, I don't know, my time management, today I have a very tight schedule and I'm going to have to make it work.
How can we overcome this?
Yeah, stopping using the word problem, which is like above your head. Challenge is, you know, it faces you. It's in your, you kind of, you're not a victim anymore. So that helps you. And it's a training, of your neurological system, really. The words that you use contribute to making you feel a little bit more positive, instead of, like I said, you know, whining all the time. It's
sure. I think the bottom line is when faced with change or a, you know, challenge, you just have to make positivity louder.
Yes.
Right. And if you approach it in that manner, you know, that journey all of a sudden looks a lot different.
Yeah, because I don't know if it's happened to you. I'm sure it did happen to you because you're an entrepreneur, and people might say, oh, but it's easy for you because you have that character, because you have that personality. And they don't know that it's a constant training because you have
yeah.
And so it really is a matter of attitude and training your neurological system to be a little bit more ready for change and not stuck in your ways.
I agree. You know, maybe people listening in know this about me, or maybe they don't. But you know, when I was 21 or 22, I think 21, you know, my life drastically changed. You know, I had to, you know, stop playing hockey. My whole life I was playing hockey. I was a semi-pro player. I was, you know, working really hard to try and develop and crack a full-time, you know, pro position as a goaltender, but it just didn't work out, and it was really hurtful. But I was very positive about the situation, kind of like what you just mentioned, that lateral thinking.
Yes.
And I said, okay, well, maybe this is the way it's supposed to be. I took so much away from the game that I still use to you know, day to day, you know. And I said, okay, well, I'm gonna go to business school now. And you know, I was always the oldest person in the class, but I didn't care. I was positive. I went through and fast tracked, you know, a 4-year degree in 3 years, and just hustled right through it in order to accomplish that goal, and embrace the fact that maybe this is where I'm supposed to be. And you know, fast forward, you know, 5 years, and here I am talking with you, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, no, I'm with it. I believe it. Okay.
One more thing about lateral thinking. It's a funny thing. There's books about this lateral thinking, and there's like little stories, short stories, and they say, this is the problem. What happened? And you go, and you can't really figure out what the problem is. And then when you find the solution, you think, you see, I didn't even see it, because we think like along this line that we don't even realize that sometimes you can think in a totally different way. So it's a good training too, you know, and when you see the solution, you go, oh, that, you know, that way I could have solved the problem. So it's entertaining. It makes you see how sometimes schematic we are. You know, we're not really thinking freely. We're just following a path.
Sure. Yeah. Yes. Got it. All right. So next question here. In practical terms, how would you work with a business owner who wants to manage change effectively?
So in practical terms, what I do with my clients is I sit down with them and I help them find solutions. So what I do, my job is not about, okay, let me tell you what to do. It's not therapy. It's not me telling people or business owners what to do. They know their business. They know their field very well. So what I do is I try to enable this person to use their resources in the best possible way and come up with solutions. And when you sit down, you need a coach or a trainer like me, because if you talk to yourself, it's not enough. You're biased, and then you can't really see things clearly. So I use, my tools and the studies that I have to make that person come up with their own ideas, with their own vision. So when you sit down, this is what I do. And the first thing you do is you write down your objectives. Like I said before, how to go from A to B. I want to manage my time better. I want to become less angry. I want to develop my business. So the first thing is being aware of the objectives. And believe me, that takes a little time because some people think they have certain objectives and then you talk to them and you go, well, this is not really your objective. They're hiding behind, but not, I mean, they don't do it on purpose, but when you really sit down and think, and somebody says, where do you want to go? It's a very deep kind of question. So a couple objectives, and then we work on what's limiting you and what is preventing you from going to where you want to go, like limiting beliefs or all sort of limiting thoughts that we have, and we work from there. Nothing about the past, which is something I don't work on. I think it's always about looking at the future. Where do you want to go from now on?
And how do you hold them accountable? Or do you?
Yes, I do. Of course I do. That's why I never do just one session, because I need to see where things are going and I need to see if I can work with that person, if they can work with me, because it's all about taking action. So I love books, and I always tell my clients, you know what, read books and listen to Tony Robbins on CD. He's very inspiring, but then again, it's your life and you need to act. So usually you write things down. At the end of each session, there's a list, a to-do list. Okay, we're going to meet in a couple of weeks. Who do you want to talk to? How many phone calls are you going to make? And then, you know, you have that list, and then when they come back, we talk about, you know, what worked, what didn't work. But it's always about taking steps.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, because I actually was fortunate enough to go see Tony Robbins, and he actually said that. He said, hey, you guys are all going to leave, all fired up and ready to go and motivated, and let's take action. And in 2 weeks, you guys are going to be in the same spot. So the importance of micro taking, micro actions along that journey needs to be front and center. You need to be accountable. You need to do this stuff daily, right? Not, one fiery session with Tony Robbins is going to change your life, right? You need to really embrace that it's, those micro actions you take daily, right?
Exactly. So, and not relying on your past. Sometimes people say, but I do this because as a child I did that. And I'm like, you know what? We're not talking about this now. We're talking about where you want to go tomorrow.
Exactly. All right. Next question here. How did you become a business and team development trainer? Should have probably asked that first, but we'll address it now.
No, it's okay. Thank you. Well, it's just, I started out as an interpreter and translator first and foremost. So I was in German and English, and I was helping people understand each other from a language point of view. And I loved that aspect of, enabling people to communicate. So then from there, I went into education, into teaching, which is also about, enabling people to move forward. And then I thought, why don't I help people move forward also on a personal level? So I went to this coaching school. I worked with applied kinesiology and neurotraining and a lot of other interesting themes. So I guess when I look back at the time, I was thinking, oh my God, I'm doing so many things at the same time. But actually there is something common for me, which is really enabling people to make progress, being their motivator, being there for them, being the, like a shoulder, not to cry on, but somebody you can rely on to give you advice and to actually listen. I worked in companies too, in customer service. It wasn't for me. It was not for me. I could see that, sitting at a desk, I need to work with people. So this is what I love doing. And I keep doing this every day.
Perfect. Good. So last question here, and I think I may know the answer, but I'll let you go for it. What examples from your life can you give to tell us how you manage change?
This is a good question because, sometimes people say, well, you talk about change and it sounds very nice, but what about you? What have you done? And I think it's only fair that you ask me this question because I was never afraid of change because when I'm uncomfortable, I become unbearable. I had that job in the company that I mentioned before. I wasn't a good worker. I wasn't good because I was nervous. So it was in me, but I was still a little bit afraid. So before leaving Italy, which was last year, I had a steady job at a school, and I went up to my boss and I said, I'm not happy. I don't like it anymore. And she looked at me and, so what are you doing? You're leaving. But I said, I want to do my coaching thing full time. This is what I love doing more than this. So I had to choose. And especially in Italy at the time, leaving a steady job was considered a little bit crazy because I had it. But I said, I don't like it. And the second big thing was moving to Canada.
I was just going to say,
Hello.
leaving a job is, micro compared to leaving a country.
I know. And my friends said, what are you doing? And I said, well, I don't like it here anymore. But I would never have done it if I hadn't had my training with my coach, with my school, because it took a lot of, it was a big challenge because my family's over there, but it's paid off, and I love being here, and I think it's always worth it. So when I talk about change, I really do know what I'm talking about, because I really embraced it, and I thought I want to go where I think my happiness is, and I don't want to settle for second best. That was my
and to add on that, I think it's also important, and I'm just making this assumption because of how you're talking. I think having that, or making sure you have that support system around you as well, that's A-okay with making changes. Like, your family was on your side and said, let's go for this. We're in this together. You all embrace change together, right?
That's so true. What you just said, I could never have done it if my husband had said, you know what, I don't like the idea. Or my daughter, I mean, she's 13, but we had to make this decision all together.
Exactly.
And my parents too. If they had said, oh, we're good. So it really is about, but I think that when you're convinced and you really can explain to your loved ones, this is what I really want to do, I think that makes a difference.
They'll get it. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yes.
This conversation has been amazing. I love it. It's exactly what I thought it would be. I love the topic. So, and I think everyone, should rewatch this. We're gonna have this, recorded and on our YouTube channel. Definitely rewatch it as many times as possible. Yes. But the way I end every Biz Chats is with a rapid fire. Three questions. First answer that comes to the top of your mind. Don't put too much thought into it. Just really quick. So what was the last song you listened to, if you remember?
Thunder by Imagine Dragons.
Oh, love that song. What was the last movie you watched?
I watched Stranger Things, which is not a real movie.
That's fine.
Yes,
that's fine.
I love that.
You know what? I feel like movies and shows, because of Netflix and streaming, is all kind of merging into.
I'm sort of turning myself into a Netflix kind of person. I love movies, but then since I've had Netflix, I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch all these series. So for me, and they're just like movies. So Stranger Things.
Sure. Perfect. And what was the last book you read?
I'm reading a book right now by Alan Friedman. It's in Italian actually, but it's a translation, so it's not a very good thing. But I bought it back home, and it's called "This Is Not America." So I think it's about the elections and all that stuff. It's an interesting book.
Got it. And I think it's only fitting for me to share it with all the listeners, because this segment is about effective change management. There was a book I read a bit ago called The First 90 Days, and it basically outlines, in corporate world, or you can even apply it to startups or whatnot, or as a business owner. But, when you're changing, into a new company or a new job or what should you do in the first 90 days in that new role, in that new business, or in this new business you started, et cetera, et cetera. So I think people should check that out as well.
The first 90 days, you said.
First 90 days, yeah. But this brings us to the end. I do want to thank you and Business Evolution. Once again, check out businessevolution.ca for anyone listening in. And like I mentioned, I'm going to have this recorded and put on our YouTube channel so people can watch it on demand. I think there's a ton of value here. I think everyone should definitely watch this or share it with people that you believe would see value in this. And then we'll see you next week for another Biz Chats. We'll have another expert guest. And we'll have a good time doing a Q&A. And my last piece is, if you're looking to buy or sell a business or franchise, check out mybizon.com. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week. Eleonora,
it's
been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Ciao.
Ciao.